Everyone's talking about smarter AI, but no one is talking about dumber data. Until now. Welcome to our discussion today entitled, AI Isn't the Mystery, Your Data Is. I'm Julie, and I'll be guiding today's conversation. Everyone wants AI to give them answers, but half the time, we're still asking the wrong questions about our data. It almost feels like we're reading a mystery novel, but no one's actually read it all the way through. That's why we're here, to dig into the real reason AI projects stall. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. Not the models. It's the mystery of the data behind them, where it came from, how it's been handled, and whether anyone can actually trust it. I'm excited to be joined today by two people who spend a lot of time helping organizations solve exactly this puzzle. Jeff Brown, who focuses on data quality, and Paul Rasmussen, who leads on data discovery and observability. Together, they'll help us untangle the mystery and hopefully make your AI journey a little less suspenseful. Welcome, Jeff and Paul.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Hi.
All right. So without any further delay, let's jump into our questions for the panel here. So our first question is, when AI projects fail, what is to blame? Is it flawed data or a flawed understanding of what data you even have? Paul, do you want to start us out on that one?
Sure. So a little about me. I'm a product manager at Precisely. Worked with Jeff. We worked on many AI-based implementations and products together. So we've got a lot of firsthand knowledge on building out these AI applications. It's difficult to point out a single reason. It's a multifaceted cause and effect. But in my role as a product manager, my primary focus is delivering and communicating requirements. And with the AI projects I've been involved with, it's really the biggest challenge is picking the right level of heuristics and signals. And what do I mean by the heuristics? The heuristics are essentially like how the AI is going to decide the rules. We've seen two different methods. They're generally either deterministic or probabilistic. And so what I mean by deterministic is they're rules. It's like if X, then Y. And so you have to write requirements that can handle those specific rules. Like, for example, in a shipping application, I would be like, if order amount is greater than $100, then shipping is free. And then on the other side of those requirements are the probabilistic. And that's where you lean towards more AI, which is the probability. And you've got to balance what you're willing to accept. Is a 90% accuracy accurate for your use case, or do you need 100% accuracy? So typically between the two, focus on an old principle called Occam's razor, which basically states that the simplest solution is generally the right. What about you, Jeff? What about it from a data quality perspective? What have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about why AI projects fail, I think a lot about the data itself, right? So there's two pieces to it. You talked a little bit about heuristics and the other areas of probabilistic areas, but the data and then the misalignment with expectations is a big reason why projects fail. And so when you have data that's entering into these AI projects, they're not necessarily protected from the garbage in, garbage out old adage, right? And so when you're looking at creating different projects that are AI generated, even going back to data science and, machine learning quite a few years ago, that it really is all dependent on the ingredients you feed it, right? And so if there's bad data that's being fed into this AI project, it's bound to fail. And if you're expecting one thing, the expectations and data don't align, then bad data will produce bad results wherever you are. And so some of that bad data can really be around, just generally poor data, right? It's not filled out, or it doesn't represent what you're looking to use it for. It could even be something like biased data where it's incomplete, or it lacks the full breadth and depth of what you're trying to extract knowledge out of or make base decisions on. There's other areas around skewed data where it could be a limited data set that you just grabbed and fed into the AI project, and you're expecting something different. But ultimately, it's the data is where I've seen AI projects fail, along with just the technical knowledge on setting expectations around what data you have, how to fix it, how to use it, and then the models themselves on building it out to solve some of the problems that customers are looking to solve in their AI projects.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. See a lot of time where the signals don't match the expectations, and so what I mean by the signals is the evidence of how the models are the models are basing their logic. So, for example, you might have just a good example of maybe a signal, since it's time of year when folks are driving to school. You've got deterministic rules, like there's a speed limit of 35 miles an hour. You have a probabilistic that, hey, maybe there's a blinking yellow sign that says there's school children. And then how do you bring those together, right? The signals along with the rules that should be applied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point on the signals and data.
All right. Great. Thanks, you guys. So just moving on to another area that we've been hearing a lot about is AI-powered data catalogs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find that these are helping teams get more value from their AI and analytics? Jeff, do you have any insight into that?
Yeah. So if we look at how customers are using AI-powered data catalogs and how it's actually helping their AI and analytics projects or even just initiatives, AI-powered data catalogs are still data catalogs. They're just being assisted by AI, right? So they're still providing insights on the digital representation of the actual data, if that makes sense, on like the data assets, right? So the catalog is there as a digital representation of what they have across their organization. And so when they're AI powered, it really helps in a few different ways. It helps customers auto discover data. So you point at one thing and then it expands out and makes some, predetermined decisions or make some assumptions on the data for then users to come in and approve or disapprove. It helps with mapping data, but to where I'm coming from in product management is that it shines a light on an organization's data assets that are both good and bad. And so for the AI powered data catalogs, it really is doing what our customers have been doing for years, except on a much faster scale. And so it really helps the users find the right data faster, but it also helps users understand if it's bad data or data that's not up to the sufficient quality that they need in order to use it for their purpose. So it really helps with reducing time to find that out, right? If you think about the old days when you were in one business unit and you needed a set of data, what you would have to do is you'd have to go to IT, fill out some form. IT would then, get some duct tape and some batteries and some toothpicks, MacGyver it together and create some data product that I would then sit there, review it, figure out that this was not the right data that I wanted. 3 or 4 weeks later, go back to IT, they fix it, then I get it back and it's different data and it's poor quality and I just can't use it. So AI powered data catalogs really help users, again, find the right ingredients, find the quality pieces into what they need to make, whether it's a data science model or whether it's for a marketing campaign.
So Jeff, how does the data catalog help assess that quality then?
So the catalogs themselves surface some of those problems, right? So they map and discover those assets, and they also are able to provide metrics around it. So catalogs have built in, profiling metrics, even, data quality rules and metrics that can help users really get the shape of the data that they're looking at and understand if that fits for their use. And a lot of times it's fit for their analytic builds of models or use around AI machine learning, actions or initiatives, and even around some of their AI based campaigns or models that they're building out too. So it just helps speed up the process faster to understand, is this the right data that I need to use?
Paul, do you have more to add from your discovery and observability perspective?
Yeah, I love the augmenting the data in the catalog, the improving the data quality, and using the catalog to communicate the data quality and to improve upon it. I've got a couple different other areas that I think about when I think about an AI powered catalog. Is the value is really driven in user productivity and being able to automate tasks that have traditionally been manually intensive. So you hear a lot about that aspect, as well as bringing the context, bringing information into the catalog. The AI is able to enrich those data sets and be able to take them to the next level where they're being used across the organization, both internally for the data catalog metadata management, but they're also being used as knowledge graphs outside of the context of the data catalog. So other applications are leveraging the data, for example, semantics, trying to identify in a business layer to communicate meaning of the data and tying that together with maybe the technical assets that are in the databases. And all this is leading to data catalogs being a knowledge graph that's provided to both internal and external applications in your organization.
Awesome.
Yeah. And one point that you touched on is that with the introduction of agentic AI, a lot of the task-oriented activities that users are doing in a traditional catalog will be almost automated, and decisions will be made all with the introduction of agentic AI and AI-powered data catalog. So it's a really exciting time that we hear this from our customers, right? From different organizations, that they're really excited to be a part of the growth of AI-powered data catalogs, AI-powered data quality, et cetera.
Exactly. And it's been interesting to follow. A few years ago, data was the gold rush, right? Everyone was rushing after data. Now everyone's rushing after metadata. And the data catalogs are great repositories of that metadata to improve some of those additional knowledge graphs and AI learning across your organization.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thanks, you guys. All right. We're going to switch gears a little bit if you guys will play along with me here. We're going to have a little fun. So we're going to do a speed round. And what's going to happen is I'm going to throw out a few statements. And when you hear them, I want you to tell me if they're overhyped or underhyped. But the challenge is going to be, then I just want 1 or 2 sentences about why. So we're going to try to go through these quickly. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. Paul, I'm going to start with you, and then Jeff, you can add on your thoughts on this first one. AI will make data perfect. Paul, overhyped or underhyped?
It's overhyped. I think data is still going to need to be curated effectively. You still garbage in, garbage out holds true, even with AI. But it is going to improve the data quality across the traditional quality dimensions like completeness, consistency, accuracy. But I'd like to caveat my answer as well. Because what you hear more and more often is, does your data need to be perfect? Right? In some use cases, 95% is good enough, and maybe a marketing campaign. But if you're in a financial systems, something to deal with money, 95% is not. You need 100% data quality. So I think data will get better. I think perfect is a very tough metric to hit.
All right, Jeff?
Overhyped, right? AI will make data perfect is overhyped. One of the things that we still see in our customers and organizations, which it's still, overwhelming, is that a lot of it's still spreadsheets. I can't believe I'm saying that in 2025. But also, a lot of times when we talk about data quality, and even data catalogs and understanding and discovering data, there's still a lot of business units that say, don't change my data. don't have it be updated by AI or enriched. I need it to be in its pure rawest form because that's what the actual data is. So I think AI changing data and making it perfect, I think that's overhyped. There's that control over data will still be there.
All right, cool. Lots of good information. Let's pick up a little, pace just a little bit. The world will run on AI generated metadata. Jeff?
Underhyped. So I think organizations will run on AI assisted metadata, but it maybe not AI generated metadata. I think kind of tagging on to my first answer, I think the bigger question would be that organizations or statement will run on AI generated data versus AI generated metadata. So AI generated data will become more ingrained inside of business processes. And that's something that a lot of organizations will have problems with and concerns, especially around auditability and traceability.
Great, thanks, Paul.
Underhyped. I think metadata will change everything. It's the context that's needed to drive AI. But I also think the definition of metadata is going to change, even in something that's been traditionally data. You have aspects that are now metadata. For example, let's take the wear on a brake pad, right? It's very information. You've got data that says I've got a brake pad, it weighs X number of ounces, but then the metadata is the wear level on the brake pad, maybe for an application on a car or a train. Is that wear data metadata, or is it data? I don't know, what do you think, Jeff? How would you classify the difference between data and metadata moving forward in that example?
So, I mean, in that example, I think that the wear is metadata on the brake pad. Now it changes, right? So it could change over time. So that might be a piece or a record of that brake pad, let's say, that is metadata, but it's hard to decide because it's a physical object. But if you were to look at that from the outside, it describes an object, so it's metadata.
Yeah, I think that, the context is going to be important, right? How you use that data in which use cases is going to depend if it's metadata or data. Yeah. But eventually users aren't going to know the difference, right? The users are going to have all that information available to them that they're not asked to make that distinction between data and metadata. We've seen that in our observability product. Our data observability product uses metadata to derive anomalies and detection patterns, where you don't even need to really inspect at a record level to identify outliers or change in trends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. All right, Paul, I'm going to start with you on this one. Discovery will become irrelevant once AI understands the data better than we do.
Overhyped
or underhyped?
I would say underhyped, because discovery moving forward will be needed. I think the emphasis, especially with AI projects, is the answer, right? And they want the resolution, the outcome of analytics. But AI can provide the answer, but it does not provide the explainability, how it got to that answer, the why and the how. And black boxes are great until you get audited and they ask, well, how did you come up with that decision? Why did you make that decision? And in those cases, traditional discoverability, for example, lineage and parentage, are going to be needed. AI is going to need to evolve to provide that information.
So does that make it overhyped?
Mm-hmm. No, I think underhyped. The importance of discovery will still be very important.
Okay, I guess it's all on how you look at it. Jeff, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I would say, so the statement, discovery will become irrelevant once AI understands data better than we do, that statement is overhyped, right? You still need human interaction to find the data to be useful, right? Data by itself is not useful unless it's being used somewhere. And to use it, you need customers, you need consumers of that data. AI will help tag and label and measure and quantify it, but the discovery on why it's important to somebody and their usage will still be needed as an interaction between system and user.
All right, Jeff, the last one. The next big breakthrough related to data will be some new technology we haven't even thought of yet.
Overhyped. I think AI as a technology is pretty well embedded in our lives, but in the near future, let's put a time frame on it in 5 years. I think the technology will evolve, but the level of the depth in which AI infiltrates our life will be very much different. How we experience a trip to the grocery store will be very different, right? Maybe tied to our phones or interactive ads and all that. How we interact with our bank is all going to be, spending habits will be AI driven. But I don't know how different of a technology it will be, right? It may just be faster and more ingrained in our lives.
Paul?
I'll go with overhyped on that one. I don't think the next breakthrough will be technology. I think it's how humans evolve and how we're going to evolve to this level of information, access to information, not just information, but answers. And how we incorporate that into our day-to-day jobs, into our organizations. How do we build that into processes? How do we build that into the new expectations of what users are expected to do? So I think to some degree, it's how humans and our brains and our methods of working are going to adapt to AI versus the next technology breakthrough, because we've seen some just incredible breakthroughs in the last few years that were, they've just surpassed, I think, what expectations were on the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for being a good sport, you guys. Okay, so crystal ball time. Now we want to talk about what is your biggest prediction about how AI will change data use in the next few years? Paul, do you want to jump in on that one?
Sure. I'm going to take it from a short-term, mid-term, and long-term perspective. And so short-term, you're going to be expected to do more. As data is democratized, or I would even say socialized, users are going to be expected to answer more questions. They're going to be able to take on different tasks. They're going to be able to do things that they might have handed off to another department or another person to do, and be expected to do it. You're going to be expected to fill more roles by using the data and AI. Midterm, AI is going to predict what you need before you need it. We've already seen that, and we've seen that in the MCP agents and the agentic architectures, where you're able to string along different tasks and kind of go from simple do X to do X and then Y and then Z. So it's predicting where you want to go next in either your business workflow or your business steps. And then lastly, I know it's maybe a stretch, but if I had a crystal ball, I think data is going to eventually aid on the collective consciousness. I think that when the data is able to answer the questions, in Jeff's example with the spreadsheets, you take the data out, you extract it, you run your analysis, and then you give that analysis to somebody else or perform a task. That if you take the data out of that picture and AI answer the question for you without having to extract it and put it into Excel, you've therefore eliminated kind of the need for the data. You're just more outcome based. So that's my prediction. If it's 5 years or 10 years, 50 years, I don't know, but I think data will become an outdated notion.
Okay, Jeff?
I hope not. So I'd like to pivot to that, like crystal ball. I think organizations will be very protective over their real data, and not the data that has been like altered or enriched by AI. I think this is in alignment with what we're seeing now with even like videos, right? In AI. I think that's going to melt into the data world to say, like, what is this even real data? Where did it come from? Right? How do we know? Oh, well, it was from XYZ and then it was enriched, or then it was, but it's automatically enriched, right? And so traceability and lineage and auditability of real data will become of real concern to our customers and companies, and they'll protect real data from from the outside world so that they can have that traceability and understand that this is actually something that was based on either system generated information or user entered at transactional, et cetera. But it's not something that would be in question of is this real or not, like we see in video. So that sort of melting of is it real or not from AI generated data into our real data will be more intertwined into the overall concerns of corporate responsibility.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Well, I think that's all the time we have today, actually. So I really appreciate your time. Such great insights today. And to the audience, AI itself obviously isn't really the problem. It's the data behind it. Too often it's misunderstood, not to be trusted, or just plain missing. But if something we talked about today resonated with you, or if you have any questions or comments, please drop that into the chat. And remember, AI isn't the mystery, your data is. And if you can't solve it, we're hoping at least made a good webinar. So hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and thanks for joining us today.